And we are live with the Wild West Crypto Show, broadcasting from the World Blockchain Summit in Singapore. I've had the extreme pleasure to catch up with Charles Hoskinson. He goes by Chuck, or he said, whatever big guy you want to call him. But it really is something else. We had an amazing event to start off the morning. I feel like everyone's very excited about the summit and really excited for you to be here. Thanks for sitting down. So tell me a little bit. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got my boots on. So
well, they're gonna love you in Texas,
man.
You go. We were just going on.
Casey's.
We were just going a little bit on about he lives in Colorado, going on about that CX4 and went on in Colorado. But tell me a little bit. I mean, I know, obviously everybody knows with the Ethereum, one of the original founders of Ethereum, and your Cardano coin and everything. But tell me a little bit about what you have going on and really what brought you to Singapore.
Yeah. Well, IWHK, the HK and IWHK is Hong Kong, so we have a nice Asia presence. And so I occasionally come out here for about every 3-4 months, and I got invited to come and speak at the summit. And since I was in the area speaking in South Korea and Vietnam, I said, sure, I'll drop on by. It's actually the first time I've spoken in Singapore. It's kind of a strange thing.
That is crazy.
All these years, I've been in space 7 years. It's the first time coming here, but it's a great environment, great ecosystem, third largest ICO market, tons of great startups here, and big, vibrant blockchain community. So it's nice to be here.
It really is. It really is a great place. I don't know how much you've gone around. I went over to Sentosa Beach. I got in at 7 a.m. yesterday. After how the trip is, right?
Yeah, 17 hours.
It was 17 from LA, right?
Yeah.
Straight.
Yeah.
Were we on the same flight?
We might have been. Yeah.
7 a.m. You got here yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on the same flight. Look at
There
that. So I got here and then I thought, okay, my trick is always just stay up.
Right.
Just stay up no matter what. I went to the beach and then the guys called me here. Salim and these guys, they put on a heck of a job.
Yeah.
And they said we had an artificial intelligence conference. Do you want to come? And so I shot over here and I was able to meet up with some really good people. So that worked out well. But it obviously it's always a big deal to have someone like you at these events. And it really makes everything a lot more exciting and everything else. So tell me a little bit. I know with Ethereum, I have a lot of questions for you. Because you're like me, been in space a long time, but you've actually been in space longer than me. So you guys had your ICO, kind of like the original.
It was ICO before we called it an ICO.
Right? Yeah. So now you talk to people in the space and they don't realize, they say, well, with your coin, did you do an ICO? And I was like, well, people didn't do ICOs back then.
Right.
So just the original ICO is so successful. And kind of how do you see this playing out with the U.S. regulatory environment,
right.
In the future of that?
Well, that's a great question. So I think what's going to end up happening is that there's a debate of regulatory capture between the Securities Exchange Commission and the CFTC. So the SEC says, well, some of these things walk like a duck and quack like a duck, so they're a security, but we don't want to call them coin a security yet because they might turn into things that aren't securities. And then at that point, the CFTC should probably regulate them like they regulate gold or silver, and it's more of exchange level regulation instead of project level regulation. So there's a few things that have been occurring. One, we've seen a lot of telegraphing by the Securities Exchange Commission of a lot of rulings like the Dow ruling and dozens of others where they say, oh, that's a security and this is a security, and they're kind of carving out how they're going to analyze an ICO to determine whether it's a security or not. Second, we've seen them make statements like Ethereum is not a security, for example, in its current form.
Right.
So what's probably going to end up occurring is after we see Coinbase and T0 and the rest of these guys get licenses to trade security tokens, we're going to see a situation where the ICO is a security and it's going to get some form of regulatory framework, Reg A, Reg D, Reg S. So A is the Jobs Act, crowd sale to retail investors, but it's capped at 50 million. D is sell to rich people, so accredited investors, and it's kind of done in a private way. And S is abroad. And we're going to see something like that materialize. It's going to be regulated like a security. It's going to live in these regulated exchanges like what Coinbase and T0 are doing. And then if it passes a decentralization test, it'll escape being a security and then go to the CFTC side and be regulated like gold or silver. These things are going to be regulated. And then that goes from a project-based regulation to a market-based regulation on exchanges and so forth. That's my hypothesis of where it's going.
I mean, that's really about all you can do right now,
right.
Because, even they came out, a month ago or whatever,
right.
And they said Ethereum is not a security. And
but that doesn't mean the ICO wasn't a security.
I kind of wanted to follow up, too, is kind of your feeling on, all right, because Ethereum, you can mine it. I actually am a big, I think mineable currencies is great.
Right.
I think it allows people to invest that maybe would never invest. And especially in the climate right now where you have to be an accredited investor
right.
most of the time to even participate in these ICOs. it provides that way to do it. So how do you think that may play out as far as the tokens that were never mineable? And do you think that'll be viewed differently by?
I think it's all facts and circumstances. So things like the test I always use is if you can remove an entity, it's like almost like Jenga. If you can remove a block and the whole thing comes down, it's probably a security.
Right.
If you can remove any entity, pick whatever one, and it still keeps going, like Ethereum, you can get rid of the foundation and Vitalik. It hurt the ecosystem, but Ethereum would still be running with thousands of projects on it.
Right.
If you can do that, well, then it's probably not a security. I think that's the smell test number one. And then the number two, you look at things like, well, is it proof of stake and one actor controls more than 51% of the supply? It's decentralized, but at the end of the day, one guy's in control or one entity's in control, right? And so there's second order, third order tests that you can apply, and then as the further along that tunnel you go, you're kind of winnowing away project by project until eventually you get to the Bitcoins and the Ethereums where you say these things are truly decentralized.
Right.
It also gives you a target to shoot for and kind of a best practice of saying if you truly want this to be a decentralized protocol that has real utility, you have to get to that point. Right? But that means then before you're there, you have to be regulated.
Yep.
And so you're going to have basic things like auditing and a prospectus and attestation of the claims that you've made and these types of things. And that's probably necessary for consumer protection. There was a report came out of University of Pennsylvania Law School recently. So it's like coin-operated economy or something like that. It was like a 100-page paper. And they said that 75% of the ICOs they've looked at were basically fraud. They were misleading claims or the code was different from what they said. And so that gives you a sense that the space is enjoying its jubilee, but it's not going to last forever.
Well, I totally agree. I can't. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you even get a lot more hit with a lot more projects than I do, but I get hit with quite a bit. And I mean, one of the things I tell people a lot is, guys, you don't need a coin. And a lot of the projects, they don't need a coin. They think they're going to make the coin and they're going to have all this money, and that's the way it works. And as you know, it's a lot. There's a lot more to it than that. But it will be
and
really.
You don't need to raise $4 billion.
And you don't need to raise.
Call it a donation, and then base yourself in the Cayman Islands. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It really is something else. Well, I think probably as soon as we get some legislation. From the U.S. legislature, I think we'll see a big run-up. So tell me a little bit more about the Cardano project. I was just on your Twitter feed, and where you guys are at, and what are you projecting over the next, let's say, 3, 4, 5, 6 months?
Yeah, okay. So Cardano is really our best attempt at constructing what we believe is a third-generation cryptocurrency. So what I mean by that is that if you look at Bitcoin, the problem Bitcoin was trying to solve was this notion of digital scarcity and getting mining where it needed to go. So it had a bucket of solutions, and those things ended up actually working, and people actually pay real money for a cryptocurrency, and that was just an amazing innovation. But it's a dumb cryptocurrency. You can't really do much with it. If you want to send complex transactions between Alice and Bob, they have to be done out of band. So then Ethereum comes around and says, we like this whole cryptocurrency thing and digital scarcity thing and blockchain thing. That stuff is great, but it's like when the web browser got JavaScript, we need programmability, right? So now we can do complicated transactions, but we can't do them at scale. They're not interoperable with the other 1,500 cryptocurrencies, and it's also not clear how we handle the governance side of things. We've gotten to a point where we now have cults of personality and powerful foundations, and if these things are ever truly to be decentralized, they have to be removed from the ecosystem, and we have to have a better way of doing things. So what we've done is we've bundled a collection of solutions to achieve scale, to be decentralized and interoperable, and to have strong, effective governance that doesn't require a cult of personality or a governing foundation. And Cardano is gradually implementing those solutions and pulling them in through a peer-reviewed process and a formal methods process into the cryptocurrency. And what's coming is we really focus this year on 3 things: luck, liquidity, utility, and community. So we're kind of trying to get listed on more exchanges and get more liquidity so more people have an opportunity to enter the ecosystem. We're trying to improve the utility of the cryptocurrency, so we're getting more features and functionality like multi-sig and ledger support and an easier time building applications with our system. And the community, trying to grow the community base and really start talking about what developers need, businesses need, and everyday people need to participate in the ecosystem. So we'll just keep updating. Cardano 1.3 is just about to come out later this year. 1.4 will come out. And we're also getting really excited to fully decentralize the ecosystem. We created a completely new consensus protocol. It took 3 years, 8 scientists, 12 institutions. A lot of stuff was working there. And we started federated, and now we're gradually taking those training wheels off and decentralizing the whole thing. So Ouroboros will be decentralized soon, probably the next 6 months, and that's going to be a huge thing. Smart contracts are also coming. We already have 2 test nets, one for KVM, and the other is our new one called Yellow, which is launching at the end of the month. So we're going to, throughout the next 3-4 months, kind of take the training wheels off that model and introduce new notions like K and semantic-based compilation. So it's going to be very lively next 6 months. It's going to be fun.
Well, that really is fantastic. You know, it's always great to sit down with guys like you. So, how do people get a hold of you? Where you know, what's your Twitter handle? What's the website you'd like to send them to? And
well, yeah, the easiest way of getting my attention these days is through Twitter. 90% of the time, it's people criticizing me, so it keeps me very.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I know, right? You know, it keeps me very humble. So IOHK_Charles is my Twitter feed, and you'll find not only mine, but the 700 bots that impersonate me giving away ether, which I don't have. I've never actually had any ether, ironically. So that's the easiest way. But you also reach me by email. It's just my name, charles.hoskinson@iohk.io, and send me an email or just ping me on Reddit. Ethereum Charles is the name. Telegram, I occasionally in the channels there. So.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming
Cheers.
on, Charles. It was a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Great to see you. Thanks, Bruce.